Today, we're diving into a really radical idea from the 19th century. It's this concept of a novel that isn't built on imagination, but on the cold, hard rules of a scientific experiment.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if a novel could actually be a scientific experiment? It kind of flips everything we think we know about storytelling on its head, right? Forget about muses and inspiration. Imagine an author studying characters the same way a biologist studies specimens in a lab.
Well, there was one writer who actually tried to do it. His name was Émile Zola. He was living in this incredible age of steam engines and scientific breakthroughs, and he basically looked at the art of the novel and thought, hey, this needs to catch up.
Now, to really get what Zola was up to, you have to understand the world he was pushing back against. The literature of his time? It was all about abstract ideas, grand emotions, and what he called the metaphysical man. Think gods, ghosts, and grand destinies.
This right here, this comparison, it perfectly draws the battle lines. You've got the old way, the classical and romantic stuff, that came from a more theological time. It focused on these abstract ideals and was fueled by pure imagination. Zola wanted to throw all that out and replace it with naturalism, a literature for the new scientific age. His subject wasn't going to be some idealized hero, it was the natural man, a person governed by real, observable laws. And his method? Nope, not inspiration. It was all about observation and experimentation.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how on earth do you apply the scientific method to writing a story? Well, Zola's answer was pretty clever. He decided to borrow a core principle straight from the science of his day.
And that principle was something called absolute determinism. It's his core belief that everything in the universe, from a planet spinning to a human feeling angry, has a specific determining cause. Nothing happens by chance. There's no fate, no divine intervention. It's all just one big, complicated chain of cause and effect.
So, Zola argued that if this is true for all of nature, it has to be true for people too. And if that's the case, it completely changes the job of a novelist. You're no longer an inventor of stories. You become an observer, an experimenter, really. Your job is to just watch and record the causes that lead to certain effects in your characters' lives.
So if you were a character in Zola's literary laboratory, he believed you were being pushed and pulled by two massive, fundamental forces that he could actually study. And these were the two big variables in his experiment. First, you've got heredity, all that biological stuff you inherit from your family, the traits passed down for generations. And second, there's your environment, the social class you're born into, the streets you grow up on, the conditions you live in. For Zola, pretty much every action, every thought, every single outcome in a character's life was just the product of these two powerful forces colliding. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds pretty cold. Maybe a little bleak, right? Just reducing people down to a set of variables, taking away free will. But here's the twist. Behind all of this science, Zola had a deeply passionate moral purpose.
See, he wasn't just observing things for the sake of it. Zola truly believed that if we could understand the why behind human suffering, the specific genetic flaws or the terrible social conditions that lead to poverty and crime, then maybe, just maybe, we could start to fix those problems. For him, the novel becomes a kind of diagnostic tool for society.
And you can hear that passion in his own words. He said his goal was to produce upon the earth the greatest possible amount of justice and freedom. There is no nobler, higher, nor grander end. So for him, this experimental novel wasn't just some artsy exercise. It was a pathway to a better world, with literature and science working together.
Which leaves us with this huge question that people still debate today. Can a novelist really be a scientist? Can you truly be an impartial observer of the human condition? Or does the very act of telling a story always require something more, a leap of faith beyond just the data? Zola's bold experiment really makes you think about where that line between art and science is, or if there's even a line